All right. Welcome, everyone, to The It Couple. I'm SJ.
I'm Dan, her husband.
We are husband
I'm
and wife.
the Dan character.
And you are. And today's guest, we're so excited to have him over Zoom, is an actor, comedian, and podcast host, Henry Zebrowski.
Henry Zebrowski, everybody. One of my oldest friends in comedy. One of the hosts of Last Podcast on the left. One of the most successful podcasts out there. And he's wearing a Faces of Death hoodie, so you know he hasn't changed.
He's also a great actor. You're a very good actor, Henry.
You remember.
No, you can do all of it.
I love to. It's been awesome. It's been too long, Dan.
It's been too long.
You look great. You guys both look great. I can't
Thank
believe.
you.
To be honest, I'm just so happy. You look happy. You look energized.
It's the lighting.
We have
It's the
happy
lighting.
fat right now, so that's what I've told myself. I'm like, I'm actually like in a good place, and that's why I'm putting weight on because I'd rather
happy.
Yeah, I'd rather just
satisfied.
relax. And
It helps protect against shrapnel. That's what I found. Is if you're ever in that sort of scenario, it does help protect against it. But I refuse to say that.
But I'm amazed that you didn't put the weight back on during pandemic, because a lot of people put it on. Like I thought you would have come back like 200 pounds heavier or something like that.
That's not really nice.
Don't know.
I swung back. No, honestly, me too. I swung back like 10 pounds. But you know what it was?
That's
Is that
nothing,
I lost my mind. I just had to do something. So when I started working out like I was in prison. Like
Really?
I looked up like the Bronson.
All your workouts are just blowing different guys. You would blow a new guy every day.
Back of my neck and my shoulders are just jacked from me sucking off a dumbbell. I just needed to do something. So I got real into yoga and I got really into, I applied all of that, like the rage I felt about it kind of felt like life was passing me by and really essential years of my youth were being deleted entirely. So in order to do that, I just kind of furiously worked out and I learned to meditate. And then I abandoned it all as soon as the world's opened back up. I just went right back to just drinking like a maniac.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you didn't pickle yourself.
I do have a question about this yoga. You didn't do anything else? You did yoga and weights?
I taught myself how to do kettlebells.
Okay.
And I would walk for hours. I would just leave my house and I would just walk for hours and hours and hours listening to something horrible. Like it's always like some long form of true crime something.
That's what Dan
and
I fall asleep to.
Yeah.
We do.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Our family is the same. We have not. Our true crime consumption has not lessened.
Bro, let me tell you a
in the last
podcast.
several years.
This is not a good true crime podcast, but it's the best true crime podcast if you just want to fall asleep. And that is Human Monsters with Morgan Rector. Have you ever listened to Human Monsters?
No, I'll look that up.
He kind of talks like this, and
It's my favorite.
like it'll be like a dad who molested all his kids. He goes, get to the fourth molestation story, and then he goes, talk about Father of the Year.
Yeah, I hate it. I understand. I know why people have a visceral reaction to me to making jokes about true crime, but it's when the serious true crime podcasters throw in like little like barbs or little,
Sword and Scale is the king of that.
That
dude,
kid.
yes.
He's such
Mike
a
Boudet or
mansplaining.
whatever.
Wait,
But I
we
love
should be
dreading.
nice. We should be
Dreading,
nice.
yeah, dreading's good.
No, but I love dreading. I love Explore with Us. I like watching those things I got really into. And then honestly also hours of old Howard Stern clips because I just want to remind myself I'm 39 years old. And
You
stay
as
in
I.
it.
Well, before we get Henry to the actual plot,
yes.
which Sarah will be breaking down, what's the scariest thing that's happened to you in the past week or past month?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like spooky. It could be, how much you owe in taxes.
I don't even want to get into it.
I
I don't even want to fucking get into it.
Think blank canvas, okay?
I just went. My eyes just rolled back. Actually, I was just at the Cruel World Festival in it was at the Rose Bowl here, where it was like a full goth festival. That was it had Gary Newman, Iggy Pop. It was awesome.
I think I saw a picture of Iggy Pop when you were there. You
he was great. Great. I fucking can still, like, you know, it's that fun thing where you watch because he's like 75 or whatever, and you're like, oh, his legs still work. It's good to see. But
he's one of those guys who got addicted to heroin and then is like, all right, I'm just going to do CrossFit for the rest of my fucking life.
It's just him and his parrot.
Not an ounce of fat on that body.
No, he's very lithe that he can still do it. He's got weird hip dysplasia, like a German Shepherd.
He's 75.
Like, one is kind of bit like higher than the other for some reason. But they had to evacuate us due to lightning. And so there was it actually was kind of like there was a moment in time where they put a big flashing red, like, we must evacuate right now. Lightning's coming. We're like, oh, fuck this. But there was like that feeling where you're like, oh, people kind of starting to get kind of crazy. And people were trying to get out of these emergency things. So that was kind of like, it felt a little Children of Many.
Yeah,
like
I would be nervous about a stampede.
I got scared. But then what was nice is it was like reality check. Oh, everybody here is a goth.
Yeah.
No one's moving fast. Everyone was just slowly It was a real slow emergency evacuation.
Yeah.
Where it was a very spooky in and of itself.
Yeah, you can't really be Usain Bolt when you have Dippin' Dots in your pocket.
No, you have to get your parasol. You have to get all of your shit together. So that was kind of spooky.
I just love the makeup's like coming off them as they're like crying and running away from the lightning. You know?
Yes. Oh, yes. This is the most gothing of all death. We're facing our deaths. But they were really, honestly, it was really fun. But that was probably the spookiest thing that happens to me. It's hard out here, man. I feel like I haven't had a genuine spooky moment in Los Angeles.
Oh, interesting. There's so many ghosts, I feel like, in the Hollywood Hills. If you ever go up there, you just feel the energy.
Or the Comedy Store open mic.
I mean, it's just
as many.
Minute.
Just as many.
Since I felt the full on wall of dread of an open mic, but
you feel the spirit of Louis Anderson blowing on the back of your neck.
To remember.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Keep going, Henry.
Just feel the no, it's fine. You feel the top of his tits right in your back, being like, that's how you know. It's like you can kind of feel his two hard nipples, like right at your middle of your your
You're
fucking
like, oh
scapula.
fuck, someone close to me is gonna die.
But I also suffer from the phenomena of being too horny for it. People, I want it too bad. I want to see scary shit. I know that, like, you know, the scariest stuff I've really experienced was I experienced something weird at the Winchester House. I saw a weird orb in Atlanta, but I've really never seen anything in the city. Except for, like, I did go through a little bit of a saga on last podcast on the left when one of my, like, went through a period of time where I think you know about this, Dan. I owned one belt. Right?
Yeah,
so does Dan.
Belt.
So do you.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I vaguely remember this.
Dan actually one time used shoestring as a belt.
When I was
in
on
Key West, because he couldn't find the one belt.
I used an electrical cord when I was on tour with Dan Soder at one point. I'm 39, guys. I used an electrical cord.
It's like showing people, I need this. I need you to be at my show. No, so I've had my belt went missing, and I did not know what. And literally, this belt went missing, and it was when we were moving. So at first, I thought like maybe something weird was going on. But then Amber Nelson, who you also know, she used to come to our apartment in Los Angeles all the time. She's like, I feel a presence here.
Well, I love Amber.
Yeah, and then you're like,
come on,
you don't know. I don't know with her.
I
right?
trust her. I trust her. Mm-hmm.
But she used to see ghosts all the time, and so then
she was in Saudi Arabia. I'd be seeing ghosts.
Oh yeah. She saw
her ghost is just a woman without a head, without a hijab, and she's like, must be a ghost.
Yeah, it's like they just anytime they saw a woman driving, be like, oh, it's Herbie the desecrated bug. But she went and saw but basically my belt went missing. I asked for it to come back to a bunch of elementals because I was told that was the way to do it, and literally my belt showed back up. So shit like that does happen to me, and I've had, I got all this spooky shit in my house. So it's like you wonder too, like I have a John Wayne Gacy drawing, I have have all the.
You have a
like,
Satan
these
in back
things.
of you. You have a picture of a little Satan.
Where's that? I don't
With the
see
goat,
it.
the goat.
Oh.
The devil.
I got all my stuff. Yeah, the Baphomet. I got
Yeah.
all that shit. But it's just so you never know. But
He's the
Baphomet's
devil,
more
right?
of a sign of
Batman?
it's no. The Baphomet is a sign of duality. It's a symbol of duality. It's about man and woman coming together. That's why he's got one pointing
Garth
up,
Brooks,
one
Chris
pointing down.
Gaines.
They're literally, truly, two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin. You know,
Yes.
I found this out. Garth Brooks, his house, and then we'll get to the movie. But his house, because he's more comfortable in a hotel, he's setting his entire house up to look like a hotel.
That's so nice, actually.
It's so funny because does that not makes me want to blow my brains out? It's like the saddest place in the world because hotels make me sad.
It depends
You
which
know.
hotel you go to, though.
Depends on the hotel.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about it on tour for last podcast where like there are wife hotels and there
Yeah.
are hotels we should be in. Wife hotels are the ones where it's nice and you go and you're like, oh, because like we stayed in a couple of those, which was nice. We're touring right after quarantine was that we
Right.
got to stay at a bunch of great places for half price. So everything was halved. So, but we're like, oh no, we're like, this is a wife hotel because it's nice. The rest of them are like, we really still up until like we still stay at like extended stays and stuff where
Yeah.
you could see a guy like you could see the outline of the tape where the guy committed suicide, like in the hotel room.
Well,
like,
or
you
it's
could
like
see the
just
lint
blood
come up.
spatter that looks like Rorschach tests next to the fucking
It
outlet.
was a breakfast incident, sir. Don't worry, it was breakfast. It was a jam explosion, sir.
Well, let's get to this movie,
All right.
man. I am so glad you picked this movie. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theaters.
The movie
And
is.
I think this may be.
You have to say Hereditary.
It's Hereditary.
Thank
I
you.
think it may be because I was thinking about the best horror movies in the past like 10 years, right? So you have like you have Get Out, you have Barbarian,
Yep.
you have Midsummer, which is also him. I think this is better than all three of those.
I
some
was
ways.
trying to think. You asked me to do the thing, which I've gotten. People say like, top. What's your top horror movie? What do you want to talk about? And for a while, my favorite horror movies, top 5, are like everybody's favorite horror movies.
Yeah.
Because they're the top of the list for a reason. A lot of it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Exorcist. But I personally, when I think about movies, I divide them up into genre because I am a movie freak. I don't watch television anymore. Right? I barely watch television. I'm just starting to do Last of Us because Natalie's like, can we just try to be normal? Can we try to understand what
Wait a
other
minute.
people
This
are
is just
saying
another
at one
horror
time?
thing, by the way.
Yes,
You're
it
just,
is.
I know.
It's still
You're just
horror.
finding you just picked a 9-hour horror movie. That's all you did.
Yeah, it's literally that's how I view it. Where I was like, it's too long. It's too long. I like my content hour and a half in and out. I like to watch a movie. It's over.
So
Plot
no
is
Succession
done.
for you, huh?
I'll one day I'll see it at some point. I'll get to it. I just can't
Yeah.
do it when everybody else is doing it. But that's why we watch nothing but horror movies quite often. Watch a
Right.
lot of horror movies. And so I break them up into kind of by genre. And so Hereditary to me is the peak of the what would now be known as I'm with Joe Bog Briggs where I disagree with the art
He's awesome.
horror. Yeah, Moniker, he's the best. But I disagree with the idea that some things are high-end or high-brow horror, where it's Hereditary kind of started that trend in modern movies of high-quality people showing up and high, quote-unquote, maybe it could be seen by an Oscar panel level of film.
Oh, she should have been nominated for an Oscar for
She was
this.
fantastic.
Oh, for certain.
Yes.
She
But
wasn't.
we must fight for these movies to not get nominated for these things. We must make sure that they stay fringe because once they start getting Oscar nominated, it's going to just be Chris Pratt in every one of these movies.
Well, you know what? I think in the 90s, they would try. Do you remember that movie Wolff with Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yes.
They
I do.
tried with that movie
They
to be
tried.
this is a serious romance drama that happens to be in the horror genre, and it was not great. My friend loves it,
No.
but it's not great. And so I think they just kept bombing trying to do this forever, and now they
Because-
figured it out.
It's fringe for a reason.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love genre for a reason. It's because it's a home for people that, still, in horror movies right now are the bastion of the best independent film that is being made. It's all in horror because there's still room for really good ideas and they can work for an audience.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Henry, because and then we'll get to the movie.
No, we're never going to talk about.
We're going to get to this movie, but like a couple years ago when Tom Cruise had The Mummy and it bombed really bad, and what they were trying to do was essentially do the Marvel or DC universe, but with like the MGM monsters, and it just bombed. They couldn't. It just failed on the. Do you think it's like, for instance, like looking at this movie, like
which because they made it an action movie, not a horror movie,
right? But do you think you could make it do you think you could have like a Marvel universe of horror, or do you think that's like once you start doing that, you start diluting what's so great about horror?
I mean, oh God, if everything is just in one tent again, if everything's just IP again, at some point we're losing any sort of uniqueness that any one of these single pieces of character work and story could possibly have. Because then it's just all, look at them now, struggling to try to figure out what the fuck do they do now after the Infinity Wars process. The same thing's going to happen immediately. So now it's what? Like, we have to make everybody kind of a half good guy so they can be their own movie. You know what I mean? Then, because then that's what we're looking at, where everything is going to happen. We're going to see everything become Black Adam.
Well,
which is not where we want to be.
No, not where we want to be.
It's not where we want to be as a society. But no, I who knows? But the reason why I chose Hereditary is just because it's also a comfort movie for me, which is fucked up for my wife. She can't handle it. Yeah. I will watch this movie. I once watched this movie 2 times in a row. Someone put it on the back during Thanksgiving as a joke. I just kept watching it. I love this movie. This movie entertains me. Like, I laugh at this movie.
So this is like your Die Hard on Christmas.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Hereditary on Thanksgiving. Yes.
It's really good. Thanksgiving is a sleeper holiday for great horror films. Like, you just start playing.
I watch football
make
all
it
day,
scary.
you know. But
I know. No, you're a real red-blooded American.
I am a red-blooded American.
You're a real man.
Well, let's get to this movie.
Yeah, let's get to the movie. So, it is starring Toni Collette as Annie, Gabriel Byrne as Steve, her husband. Millie Shapiro is Charlie. Alex Wolff is Peter, and Ann Dowd, always fabulous, as Joan. All right. This film was made for $10 million, and the box office $82.8 million. And I believe it premiered in Sundance. And then
it was a midnight showing at Sundance.
Yep, and then A24.
And that's kind of how it got that first, high-end, highbrow horror. Because it was like, it came in through Sundance, it had a lot of heat. You got Toni Collette, who's it's like driving a Ferrari around. You know what I mean? Like, she's incredible. She's incredible.
And even in this, the movie, because she goes through 2 major deaths in this movie, and her reaction to each death is completely different. And you realize how great of an actress she is.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it's 3 deaths. Because the husband.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Then, then there's
a
whole other.
It's like, it's
the best death in the movie,
Very to a crisp. Okay, so this film was shot in Utah. It's beautiful. It opens on an obituary for Ellen Lee.
Which is creepy enough in itself. I don't know if you've spent extended time in Salt Lake City or in Utah.
I just went to Wise Guys. Yeah, I just opened for him. It felt like I was in a fake city.
SLC's weird spot.
It was very clean, very nice. Nobody was there. That's what it felt like the whole time.
Yes.
You know, it felt like, you ever seen the Langoliers, Stephen King's Langoliers? It felt like I had gone
someone
too far in time.
Yes,
that's what it felt like.
That's it. The streets are empty. It's very strange.
Yeah, very bizarre.
So we then zoom in on a model home that we then come to find out is Peter's bedroom, the son, and Steve, the dad, is gathering him and his sister Charlie, who's asleep in a treehouse, for the grandmother's funeral. And now we're at Grandma's funeral, and in Annie's eulogy, she makes it clear that they had a difficult relationship. She's also surprised that so many people came that she didn't know, which makes sense later on.
She loves drama. In this the fact. The thing about this, I understand we all have fucked up relationships with our parents and shit, but it's like, but you get to that eulogy and you still can't like not use this opportunity to remind everybody.
Take
that
a
my
couple
mom's
shots.
She's a fucking bitch. You know she's a bitch, and now she's a dead bitch. And you're like, it's a good way to set the tone of what Toni Collette's looking for as a mother.
Oh, God. All right. So she's wearing this necklace with this symbol on it as she's delivering this, her eulogy, and we see it. And then when little Charlie goes to her grandmother's casket, the grandmother also has the same necklace. We then find out Charlie is allergic to nuts because, why not? And that'll come
Sprinkle
again,
it in, yeah.
A little bit.
With this, again, what all true horror does best, which I really do think is the callback. It's the every detail is necessary at the top of the film for you to then see how it plays out. And it only really is revealed on repeat showings.
100%. The symbol, you would never notice that.
You know what's amazing about horror is that like the ones that I like, the really bad ones that are also super watchable, they drop a bunch of hints that they never pay off because the script changes like 5 different times, and they're like, oh yeah, all right, no, I guess aliens, fuck it, put it in.
Yeah, literally, Michael Madsen didn't show up for the last 2 weeks of casting, last 2 weeks of filming, so now we have to re-edit the middle. You know what I mean? Like, it's that thing where that's the issues they're dealing with.
Yeah, there's no dropping hints when you have a day to film something. But,
all right, so yeah, she's allergic to nuts, guys, and it seems like the family's somewhat relieved that the grandmother's gone. Like no one,
except for the daughter.
Well, except for Charlie, but like the dad, and she was living with them towards the end of her life, so she died there most likely. And little Charlie, she's sad. She says to her mom, "Who's gonna take care of me now that grandma's gone?"
Man, she's also, talk about walking around as Millie Shapiro, who's a very compelling actor as a young person, but like works in this movie, kind of has like a sort of like different look. Kind of, can you imagine being that person, being that thing where you walk around and you're a professional monster to other people? And then you just get to be scary to other people. Kind of like, like the lady who plays the nun.
Oh, yeah, she actually looks that way.
But she's a lovely woman, apparently. Funny, like kind of like dirty. She's like a smoker, like a fun person. But then, except for once in a while, you have to look at her and be like, oh, you're the nun. That's gotta be scary. Just like walking around like that, just being you're a creepy person.
I have not gotten into I saw the nun, nice set pieces.
It's bad film.
That.
It's not great.
No.
Bad film, though.
Yeah.
So, okay. Charlie's been drawing her grandmother. She also loves to draw little Charlie, quite artistic.
Kind of a shitty artist, but we'll leave that there.
Very shitty.
It's creepy. Actually. It's a creepy hobby for all kids.
Drawing?
It's a creepy hobby. Yep, I hate it.
Drawing people in caskets.
Well, it's just that. Yeah, it's that thing. They always, because their imaginations are unfettered, and they don't know that what they're drawing is deeply haunting and traumatizing.
How old were you when you saw your first dead body, like in a wake or on the street? Like, how old were you?
I actually saw a dead body when I was probably like 12. I saw, because I didn't go to any funerals that I remember until after college, but I saw a dude dead on the street when I was a kid in New York, when I was going to middle school. I saw a dude dead that was impaled through a fence post. Like, it was a thing. He was covered. It was a gang thing.
What?
It was like very.
It was a gang
just
thing?
to remember it clear as day.
Is this from The Wire season 1? What is this?
I used to have to walk from where my parents lived in Woodhaven, Queens. I used to go to Ozone Park, where at the time was like extremely dangerous part of New York City when I was growing up. So this is around like 95. 96, and it was like the city was really, really different. But yeah, I remember seeing a dead body then, and it was,
that's like a
obviously
real
I'm
body.
fine.
Yeah,
I mean, look at me.
Well.
Definitely didn't create a world of macabre industry that I'm now a part of.
What about you? When was your first dead body?
Probably a funeral. Like, definitely, like, I think like my great aunt or something like that. I forget who I saw first. But yeah, they all look different, No dead body is the same. I think the most disturbing, and obviously, I've seen like my mom's dead body and like stuff that wasn't pleasant because I knew them so well.
No.
Yeah. But one time I saw a body, and this was somebody who jumped in front of the fucking 6 train, and I was trying to get in work, and I had just looked down. They had a flashlight, and all I saw was like the guts open. That's it. Just like from the train tracks. And then I looked to the right and I saw Henry furiously masturbating.
Yeah. Remember every detail, Henry. Remember every detail.
Okay, let's get through it. Okay, so Annie is looking through her mom's stuff, and she finds a note from her mom asking for forgiveness and for her not to hate her, and says our sacrifice will pale to the next reward. So she then sees a vision of her mom in the corner. So now shit's starting to get a little creepy, right? Like,
well, again, incredible thing about a horror films, we got to start the scares early. We got to get them often, and I don't want to feel a moment of relaxation. Like we're pushing forward. Like immediately, we know something's fucked.
No, that's great. Yeah, totally. And okay, so now we're at school with Charlie, and she's making some weird little toy, and all of a sudden a bird flies right into the window, smacks into it, and dies. And everybody's running to it, and she's just staring at the teacher's desk, and then you realize she's staring at scissors, which she then uses to go outside, cut off the bird's head. So
pretty cool.
She's
Which is a recurring theme, everybody.
Yes. Lots of head loss. Mm-hmm.
I did used to, when I was a kid, I would collect dead crabs and put them in a bucket under my house. I don't know.
See, I thought you were going to say under your
house. Like a sea captain, the ghost of a sea captain. Like, technically, make some biscuit later on for the children.
You also went to the Jersey Shore all the time, so it was kind of like the only thing you could find.
I wasn't meeting any girls, so that's what I did instead.
No, you weren't. Definitely weren't with your bucket of rotting crabs. But no, I feel like that's normal. And I also think that, cutting the head off of a bird, on one side, you do obviously have the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world and people that do this. And then some of these people, though, turn into veterinarians. Because I don't know if you've met somebody. I love my veterinarians, and I think a lot of them are truly very, they love animals. Mm-hmm. But I think, like, with human surgeons, you also probably do kind of find a lot of them that have sort of a callous sort of attention. They are interested in the bodies of these things, but then they use that for science, and they don't feel these emotions because the emotions would actually make them bad at their jobs.
Of course.
I don't know.
You would not want a surgeon to operate on you and be afraid of blood or I don't
need an empath surgeon. I want my surgeon to be rock solid. I want him to feel nothing.
Well, I talked to somebody who works in the medical liabilities field, and she's like, well, it's interesting. She goes, because a lot of the doctors that get sued are actually great doctors, but their bedside manner is terrible. So people thought that they did wrong. She goes, but the nice doctors, those are the ones you got to watch. It's like that, what was the thing that was just on Peacock? Dr. Death. Was it Dr. Death or
Dr. Death?
Oh,
yeah.
With,
that guy was
that whole story's great.
That guy,
never be nice.
That guy. That guy is just proof that not everyone should have a dream, man. Because almost every for every story that's he bombed a bunch of times, but then he got good and he made it. There should also be Dr. Death where it's some jobs you shouldn't bomb a couple times. Some jobs you should be pretty good up top.
At some point, can we just cut all of the medical students that passed with a D? You know what I mean? Like the people that just make it past the lip in all of these places.
You got from a Caribbean, you got your med degree from the Caribbean. Come on, man. What's going on here?
But yeah, she's creepy, man.
She's very
creepy.
This
girl's creepy. She's creepy. And no one's here for her. No one cares about it.
Has no friends.
Wow, I'm looking at pictures of Millie Shapiro now. She's like a Zoomer now.
Yes.
She's like a full TikToker now. Mm-hmm. She's got pink hair and stuff. Oh, yeah.
She looks
Try not to be creepy. She's looking good.
I feel like they did a little bit of something to her to make her look creepier.
Extra creepy.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did.
Because she does have a bone disease, which
she
also...
does. But no, they added a look to her. They added a prosthetic.
Yes, you could tell.
Which that's got to be... can I just say, before we get to her untimely demise in this movie, it is really unfortunate when someone is just hired because they have a bone disease and they're like, you'd be great. You'd be
it's great for casting.
It's great. That. My buddy Ben, he works for Ben Bladen. He started as a zombie actor. He has he worked for Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. He had this degenerative bone disease that is causing him to sort of curve. He's got a thing he's dealing with. But he's like, man, because of The Walking Dead, he worked for The Walking Dead as a premier zombie because of his crazy look. He works all the time now. Yeah. And he's like, he's like, I embrace it. I take care of myself. I got all my shit, and now I'm just creepy guy.
I take care of
That's
myself?
what I do.
What does that mean? Like, I make sure it still looks shitty every day. I make sure I still look terrible.
He's made a huge living off of it. I was like, man, that's the fucking... it's kind of great in a way, you know? Yeah. Like, that's all you just got to make it through years of hell.
Yeah.
And then you might just be an incredible character actor at the end of it.
Might. But I'll just take over. She essentially, later in the movie, he gets invited. What I love about this movie is the high school scenes are so normal. Everyone in high school is normal. Mm-hmm. The teachers are normal. The kids aren't mean to anybody. Mm-mm. It's the only place that's normal in the whole fucking movie.
Concerned
is high school, which is which you never see. Usually, like we're talking about Carrie at one point, and you know everybody's so fucking mean to her. And this is the opposite. Nobody's mean at all.
Technically, the high schoolers are all the nicest people in the movie.
They're so nice.
100%. They're all like, and it's like, it's all just like, oh, he's got pot. Let's all smoke pot. Mm-hmm. So he goes to this party, this barbecue.
No, hold on. This is why I'm doing the plot, because now you're moving too far ahead, kid. Okay, so Annie sees that her mom's
Time is money, baby. Time is money.
Annie sees that her mom's bedroom door is open. And she's like, why is that open? Who was in there? She sees this weird triangle on the floor. He gets a call, Steve, while they're locking the door up, and he finds out that the grave has been desecrated. And so he's asking, like, well, what do you mean?
Yes.
Henry's the only guy I know when he dies, he's going to want someone to desecrate his grave.
I mean, it's the only way I know I was legit my whole life. It's the only way to know.
Just scoop up that fucking body.
Oh, God. Okay.
I mean, something's going to happen.
So, okay, fine. We can skip to the party now because she just goes to a bereavement group and you find out more about her relationship with her mom. And we get a glimpse of
This is the only part of the movie where I was like, I give it cheese. Well, honestly, because I grew up in my grandmother was our worst family member. Right?
Well, you also grew up in a family where someone, like, there was an emotional problem. They're just like, all right, here's Big Ziti. We're good.
Yes. Very classic, European immigrant family where food was the only thing that was on point. Everything else was kind of rough. And my grandmother was like this, who was the villain of our family. My mom's arms went psychosomatically dead. She went through a thing with her in her teenage years where her arms just stopped working because of the stress level in the home.
Oh my
God.
I
think that's a part of the reason why I identify with this movie so much in the beginning, because you watch it and you're like, I totally know what it's like to have evil grandma.
What's worse, getting your family destroyed by an evil or just being Irish? I feel by the end of it, I was like, I feel like I've seen the end, this type of end just for a normal Irish family, and there's no ghosts.
Sometimes it's nice to actually have the demons, because then it's an excuse that other people can get into.
Yeah, you can blame it on something. Yeah,
not just frozen emotions.
We find little Charlie at her desk making the toy that she was working on, and now we see the bird. The head is on it. The bird's head that she cut off. She follows this weird orb that we see a couple times throughout the movie, follows it outside. We see a woman, the grandmother, in a field with fire around her. And then to the party.
To the party. He wants to go to this party to impress this chick.
What I always find interesting about this party scene is that I have never once, especially in high school or college, went to a place where anybody served food.
Oh, nuts. I have. I ate an entire wheel of brie once at a party.
That's incredible.
Now you understand her attraction to me. You didn't before.
Yeah.
But now eating an entire wheel of cheese in one sitting. That's a real future Mrs. St. Germain.
And it wasn't even on display. I went in the kids' refrigerator and took it out, and his Nonna had made it and was for dinner. I ate it. I ate the whole thing. It was delicious.
I feel like I just didn't go to the right parties.
You have to grow up on Long Island. There's a lot of food. It's a lot of Italians. It's a lot of Jewish people. And so we just would have parties together. And there was always some sort of a spread. Even if it wasn't put out for us, we'd still go in the fridge and eat.
That's incredible. No, I partied in Florida, so it wasn't.
Toni Collette, it was just fucking...
meth on the...
Yeah, it was just bath salts and scuba gear. But like, this Toni Collette, aka Annie, forces him to take the sister, which is like weird, but then later on you realize like, oh, she's like subconsciously trying to fulfill the prophecy too.
That's what, again, what's awesome about the movie is that now, upon repeat viewings, you know that they've been fucked since minute one.
Yeah, because there's no reason for her to go to this party at all.
Oh,
there
she's
really
13. What is she, in 8th grade?
Yeah,
9th?
she's like 13.
I guess she's in 9th grade.
She's clearly not having a fun time there. Okay, so
I mean, she's creepy.
Yeah,
I will put it that way. She's fucking creepy. We're trying to get her out of the house.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also maybe because that's the thing. We now just got a second dog too, and you understand. You got to socialize the first. Yeah. I didn't realize that the first dog was so backwards socially until we got the second dog, and now we're trying to put them together. But that's the thing. It probably helps to get you. Maybe you think, oh, get this creepy girl out of the house. Maybe she could go experience some fun in her life. She can kind of maybe not be like this forever. Sick of the tiny dolls, sick of the beheaded birds. Like, there's got to be other hobbies she can pick up.
Can I just say, PSA to anyone, like, that never works out. Like, don't bring your creepy friend to a non-creepy place. Get them, like, to take them out to Applebee's first. See how they can handle that. Don't take them to a full-blown party, because they're not ready for that yet. That's like trying to, like, letting your golden retriever out to the Serengeti or something.
Dude, this is such a true lesson from the comedy world. Where you really got to think about who you mix, who you bring into your actual friend group from the comedian world. Because you never know. A lot of times these guys are just looking for a way out of their tenement house. That's why they're at the open mic. You didn't understand that their real world is like some like super shady world where a bunch of Russian dudes and everybody's just selling white powders and it's not drugs. It's like real
even worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, she accidentally eats a cake.
Wait, before that though, we have to bring up the fact that we zoom in on an electrical pole that when you watch this a few times, you see it's the same symbol that was on the necklace that her mother and her grandmother had on the pole. That we'll revisit in a minute. Go on, Dan.
Okay, so that's on the pole.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I really don't think that I made a mistake there, but that's fine.
I think that's important.
Anyway,
there's a reason.
I love this tension.
Let's see how this marriage turns out by the end of this podcast. Anyway, as a podcast I forced my wife into because I was like, maybe they'll like me more if they see I'm married.
He was like, I think
I desperately need a woman here. Please.
He needs a win for my humanity. Anyway, so she accidentally eats a cake with nuts in it. Her throat starts closing up. He speeds away to get to the hospital. She's sticking her head out like a golden retriever to get air. Ends up fucking decapitating herself. And then, which is like, this is fucked up. I wrote on the show Moral Compass, and Sarah cast it. Mm-hmm. Shout out Tyler and Adam.
Yeah, the best.
Nice. But it's like this thing where it's it's the whole sketch is like something really fucked up happens, and then the comedy comes from reacting. And after her head falls off, there is a moment I'm like, this is so fucked up. But watching a second time, it's a little funny.
It's a little
like
funny.
Just seeing him like put the seatbelt on and then slowly drive back home and acting
it's
like
fucked
nothing.
Up.
It's like fucked up but funny. It's really
well.
You
know up. That it gives a really good reaction. You know, like when I just recently cut the living shit out of myself. Ooh. Like while I was cooking. You know that like moment when you do something. And you have that feeling of like, have I just permanently fucked up everything? Mm-hmm. Like, have I just done something where, have I just lost function of my finger? Did I just cut through a whole important series of tendons in my finger? Like that feeling where it's like, that dude nails that.
Oh, he's great.
So good.
He nails it. That's why, but that's where I feel like I do understand.
Alexander
like that's
Wolff,
how I felt during
Alexander Wolff,
yes. During Beau is Afraid, right? I went to go see Beau is Afraid by myself.
Same director, guys. Same director.
Mm-hmm.
Same director. I was just laughing, right? I was laughing because I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I have not.
Have you seen it?
Spaventa has, our audio producer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have.
It's one of those movies where the horror it's a horror movie about what if every one of your intrusive thoughts is real. That's like the name. That's basically the movie.
Oh, there's
that's like my anxiety.
That's really great that I just saw where it's the guy... my friends are trying to kill me or something like that.
Yes,
that movie's so anxiety provoking because it's just
this movie is the same. It's 3 hours of it, but I was laughing because I was just like, yep, had that one. Mm-hmm. Yep, no, that one. Yeah, and I was just laughing just for the recognition. So I can seeing this because it's that feeling of like, oh, everything's different now. Mm-hmm. Now everything's different. This drive home is going to be the last moments I have as me, who was before this incident. Now, which is also fantastic to end the first act of a movie with. Mm-hmm. Talk about just great movie making, like the thing where you're like, oh, now anything that was a semblance of that was barely holding on to normalcy is now gone.
Well, now where it's like you're in free fall before the nightmare happens. This is the nightmare. Like it's
already happened.
You think that's the worst thing that could happen, and you're like, why did this happen?
But also, when that happened,
the clock
in the movie theater, I always like I ever want one, and I remember just being like, oh shit! That was like my first reaction, like, oh yeah, and you go once you pop. The fun don't stop. I knew. I was like, this is going to be great.
Because you get like, oh man, my one thing being when we used to hang out in New York, now we're on other coasts, but like you pop the way that I would pop or wrestling fans pop for like a finishing move, you pop for horror deaths. You're like, oh,
I do.
Fuck nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I go, yeah. Like literally, I said it through. I miss New York theaters for that because you can't. LA theaters are so quiet. Mm-hmm.
So it's just also LA. You can feel the resentment of the people who weren't chosen to work on the movie in the theater. You know?
Yeah. It's true.
Like, oh,
honestly,
really?
Very
That's
true.
who they went with. Fuck
or who
this.
worked on the movie and hated it.
The scariest part about this is they used him as second AD.
It is true.
Yeah, and then he goes home, so he is in shock. In that moment, he's just sitting there, and then takes off, goes home. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that was a dream. He had a nightmare because he wakes up and the parents are just like exchanging pleasantries and, oh, I'm going to run out. And then you hear her take off and then you hear her scream.
Toni Collette. Scary. This is why Natalie can't watch the movie again, is Toni Collette and her reactions in these scenes.
Show her this and then show her Muriel's wedding. And then she'll be like, okay.
Yeah, flip it. Wow.
It's a happier moment. Yeah. So the body is in the car. And that's when you realize, like, holy shit, this is real. This really happened. So she's wailing. We go on to the funeral. Of course, poor little Charlie doesn't have a lot of friends there.
Beautiful casket, by the way.
Oh, I didn't notice the color. You would notice those kinds of things. Although my great-grandmother was buried in a purple casket because it was her favorite color. And my mom also took photos of her body in there, and my sisters and I were like, please put the fucking camera down.
Weird when your mom got in there with her. That
was you're fully like New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
You like 100%. New York, Long Island?
Yep.
Because that's very interesting because it's very different because in southern communities it's way more prevalent than I used to, because I used to work as a old school photo developer for Eckert's, right? And I used to do it by hand, manual.
Every serial killer job you've had.
I have.
I know, truly.
And it was one of those where I used to see roll after roll after roll of a dead person in a casket that they would go and just because they forget humans look at these. I used to see disgusting things in these rolls, like, but that was also it's haunting. And so one time, what you could do is that you could mark, like if you saw, like we would do a thing every once in a while. If you saw a particularly funny video, we'd mark one as destroyed and we'd print a couple extra for ourselves.
Oh, yeah,
and
of course.
Oh, God.
And so one that we did was that I had a bunch of pictures of this dude in a casket that I duplicated. And then my roommate was Ed Larson, who was in Murder Fist and on LPN with me and all that kind of shit. And I filled the inside of the blanket of his bed with all of these pictures of this dead man in a casket. It was great. Yeah, that was really fun.
Me and my friend Nick did that drunk, but with just a guy's headshots. We just went around, the house, which was actually scarier in a weird way.
I think so.
But now I've since apologized for it. I'm certain that a year has been taken off of my life because of the actions that I made.
Yeah.
So Peter's starting to feel a little guiltier, right? He's starting to hear things, panic attacks, hear some clucking. That's a little thing that she used to do, which I think dealt with her because she was uncomfortable around people, and so that was a way of like dealing with it.
Scary noise.
I wrote it in my notes.
Noise.
Yeah. Hold on, let me see. And it's just like we can all do that, right?
We can all do that, yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. So having panic attacks. Awesome. We have to bring in Dowd now. So Dowd, we're introduced to her character.
Well, we're introduced to her at the event, but we don't have the talk.
Her.
Yeah, we just see her.
Mm-hmm. And now they're talking. And
God, she's good too.
She's good. She's so good. And you think she's this warm, like you're like, oh, she's going to be the heart of the film. She's going to be the one that like takes this tragedy and makes it something beautiful. Her son and grandson both drowned. And
maybe.
Possibly.
Who knows?
Well, at this
Probably
time,
not,
we think so, right?
Yeah, swish.
And Annie actually goes to her house and tells her about a time she was sleepwalking and she poured paint thinner all over the kids and went to strike a match, and Peter woke up and he never forgave her for that. And she's like, no, but I was sleepwalking. So,
Which, fair thing to not forgive your mom for.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things. Because the thing is, we know...
That's not she didn't buy you the wrong Ninja Turtle, you know?
No, because you know it's in her subconscious.
Of course, if she's
you know that
sleepwalking
she's doing
and
something.
it. Yeah.
She wants it actually. Mm-hmm. Like it's past the thing that she'd made.
I have a question for both of you guys. Now, with the subconscious, do you think she's trying to kill them to stop the demon? Or do you think she's doing that in concert with the demon? So that's an even scarier element.
I think she's with the demon.
I think she's in the end, but I think in the beginning she's like trying to kill her son so he doesn't possess the demon.
But
I think that's what they are, the line that is going to accept payment, right?
Right.
So what I believe, this is my judgment, is that is her unconscious trying to stop it from happening. And because in this movie, everything that's quote unquote bad that happens is good, and everything that is good that happens, like, you know, them saying like Joan's supposed to be good, she's actually bad. Everything is kind of flipped in this movie. Yeah. So her trying to kill the kids, in my mind, was her trying to end the line.
Huh.
And it was something from inside.
Casey Anthony's like, see, this is what I was trying to do.
You see?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're at dinner, right? And Annie and Peter and Steve. Poor Steve has cooked a dinner. And she and Peter get into it.
No one talks about Steve. Nobody cares about the husband.
Also, this dinner looks delicious.
It's so good.
He is
delicious.
Gabriel Byrne is incredible.
He's incredible.
He's an incredible husband.
He's so good.
I think in a lot of ways in this movie, he's Adrian and Rocky, because all he is concerned looks. His whole role is just concerned looks, and he's there as a red herring because you think he's going to be evil, and he's just concerned the whole time, and he dies.
Burned
that's it.
To a crisp at the end.
He plays, which is very commonly a female role.
Yeah,
which is he's just the concern. He goes, I just wish that everybody could sit down and have a normal dinner.
Yeah,
you know, meanwhile, like they're all being run by the evil god Payment.
He's Shelley Duvall in The Shining.
He is, yeah. Well, she is a little bit more powerful.
We just got to get through this couple of months, and everything will be okay. It never is.
So basically, we do the seance. She thinks that she communicates with Dowd's, dead son. Turns out she was not. She was communicating with something else. They go back. She goes back to her house, gets her son, gets her father, gets them together. Thinks that if they, say this incantation or whatever, then they'll be able to, rid themselves of the grief and horror that they've dealt with losing their kid. But of course, it just makes all this spooky shit happen and these lights move.
Oh yeah.
And it just seems
never do it.
No, it just seems like they just put it seems like the devil goes into second gear in this scene.
But have you guys ever used like a Ouija board or any of that?
Yeah.
That was always like seen as like, I mean, to me, like I would take part in one in a seance.
I mean, the thing about the Ouija board is probably scarier. Yeah. It's just like the factory workers who died making the Ouija boards,
I mean, I feel like that's probably what
Milton and Bradley.
But that's also Monopoly. Yeah. That's just Milton Bradley's just
Milton Bradley.
People dying.
My goal I want to do a legit seance. I would like to, but I really do think you have to do it carefully. I don't know, because it's weird. There's definitely a chicken and the egg about this type scenario when it comes to these things, about what is a projection of our brain that we kind of reverberates back to us in the form of paranormal activity. There's like, like just reality in general, how we deal with reality. Like maybe maybe ghosts are kind of interdimensional, like kind of like track marks of energy, like that type of shit. Or are there stuff that's like got a personality that's right behind the wall, right? That then can act like things that are familiar to us, that then can communicate to us. That's where you get tricky.
My sister just went to medium to try to contact my mom, but a lot of the times, a lot of these women are just, and men are just complete fucking hucksters,
yeah,
they're
just
it's hard,
snake oil salesmen.
You have to decide what it is that you want to get out of this scenario, and something like that, because you have to basically decide for yourself: is this real? And walk through that process. But I feel like it's been so close since she died that you might not. It's so raw. It's so raw that
they're
it's very
still in that
difficult
middle. Like they haven't gone to whether or not you believe in a heaven and a hell. They're still trapped. Like in
I
this
don't really want to think about that.
No,
but
not your mom. I'm
No,
saying,
yeah. We gotta go
your
we
mom's
gotta go
in
dig her up. I'm
heaven.
sorry. I know it's very sensitive for you, Dan, but we're gonna have to dig up your mother and see if she's still alive. I'm sorry.
She was
it's a lot.
cremated.
She was cremated,
How do we put that
unfortunately.
together, Henry? Find
God,
out.
that's gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to call. I'll use one of our PAs here at the network. They'll sift through the ashes.
Just poor Marcus walking in on his fucking. His
I think he'd just be like,
researchers
"Oh,
sifting-
good ashes for me."
Okay, so we're now realizing that Annie is done lost it. Like she gets water thrown at her by Steve to sort of stop, whatever
because she
trance
starts
she's
talking
in.
as the daughter. What you think is the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
who
it's so
knows
good.
if it's the daughter? Who knows?
And she's scaring the shit out of Peter.
Yeah.
Her son, poor Peter, man. And now he's getting into it. He hears the clucking. He's in the class and he's starting to like go crazy and he bang. Oh, wait, doesn't he see a face first?
No, he sees
his
himself
reflection?
smiling. And he's already seen like his sister in the room and stuff like that. But he sees himself smiling, and this turns into him bashing his face as hard as he can on the table,
Yes.
which was in all the previews, which is an awesome scene.
Oh, it's
and
so
still
good.
devastating.
And now, since everybody has I feel like Hereditary artistically then set up a bunch of moments that everybody has been ripping off ever since. And this is one of those. The bashing the head into the
you think that's a
into
little
the
like
table.
Smile?
It is.
Oh,
Everybody's been ripping off of the Hereditary ever since it's this move and the move later on when you'll see the other woman fast smashing her head against
Yes,
the
I've seen
the
that a
treehouse
bunch,
thing.
yeah.
Everybody's doing that thing now. But Alexander Wolff apparently really broke his nose in that
Well,
scene.
he wanted to. Apparently,
in real- he really
no,
did?
he fucked his leg up. I just read this.
Okay.
He fucked his leg up and he busted himself open. But I don't think it was a foam desk, so I don't think that the director wouldn't let him break his nose. But he wanted to break his nose because that's, the Jeremy Strong, man. American actors have to live through it. Unlike British actors, like, I'll put on a funny hat and I'm Willy Wonka.
I've never understood.
American actors have to be like, I have to emaciate myself. I'm going to kill my own children to know what it's like.
Oh yeah, when
It's
Shia
method.
LaBeouf he cut open his own face and removed one of his teeth or whatever, and
Yeah,
it's
you're
just
just
like
like,
nobody cares, bro.
Dude, nobody
Fury was a
cares.
mid-range drama. Nobody cared.
We find out Grandma's body is in the attic.
Yeah.
That's what we find out next. Okay,
Yeah,
so
she
Peter,
is.
She's up there, and we see the symbol again.
I
And
could just imagine Henry's face right now. It's just like kid on Christmas morning, and I imagine that
God.
was your face the whole time watching this, huh?
Well, I loved this movie. I really, because again, it's like, scare me, daddy. Like, fucking go all the I appreciate films that go 110%. You know what I mean? I want it to be over the top. Like, just go for
Yeah.
it. Because this is a
for it.
movie. It's not a stage play. There's not like, I also understand now we're kind of struggling. I know I am trying to create something that is, because in order to make a small, truly like small horror movie that's like a house and 4 people, it has to be like this, where the script is so brilliant.
Yeah.
that you can, and it's so hard if you have little
Or you can just what
talent
I do
like
and write
me.
a $5 million horror movie and no one buys it. You know, have
That's
a bunch of locations.
$2.5 million.
That's where
$2.5
my head goes.
million.
That's what we're trying to do. Same thing where you're like, ooh, you know, me like, we'll throw a big
All of a sudden
monster
you put
in
the
it.
rocket ships in. And you're like, this is no one's buying this shit.
God damn it.
Okay, so Steve goes up there, husband, and he finds it. And that's, then it's legit. She wasn't making it up. The body is really there. Because you do have that moment where you're like, did she imagine this? Because she keeps like having these sleepwalking moments, like when she sees the ants and she follows them and Peter's in bed and then she's choking him and he's like, why are you hurting me? So she finds,
that's a scary moment too. I forgot about that one.
when she's grabbing and
That's
you
a
don't know
scary
it's
one.
her because it's like behind the bed, like she comes in behind and then she's standing there.
But who
and
knows
you
if
see
it's
the
her?
God,
no,
this
it is the
movie's
shirt
so
matches.
good. No,
The
the shirt
shirt
does
matches.
match.
It's her shirt
This
that she had on.
movie's so fucking good at the micro scares that build up scenes. This is the thing. Watch a boring movie. If you go and watch another movie that is like, all right, I like The Dark and the Wicked. Right, The Dark and the Wicked is it's the bag cereal version of Hereditary in many ways, because there's many sequences in Dark and the Wicked where nothing happens.
Story's very different
This-
than I don't think it's a ripoff, but it's there's things it's in the same wheelhouse.
But it's the idea. Hereditary never lets you go.
You're right. You never
It's
have
just
a
always-
moment.
No,
Something's
never
always
lets you go.
There's always like a moment, even like when the girls are just mixing the walnuts in
Dread.
the cake. You're just like,
Just dread.
oh, she's allergic. We know it because Steve asked her if there were nuts in the Hershey's bar. Like, so now you're putting it all together.
Do you think
yeah, you
Ari
never get-
Aster's do you think he's a creepy guy?
No, he says
He
sounds like the
he
sweetest
seems like
man.
a nice guy. I have some of his quotes, but yeah, he seems like a
and he was
sweetheart.
young,
but-
right? He was like 31 when he did this. Also, he plays.
Oh yeah.
He's the voice of the guy at the gallery where she's supposed to have a show. That
Look at
he's
this
doing the
little nerd.
voiceover.
Look at this
He's
little
cute.
nerdy guy. I've never
Sweet.
seen his face before. I
Well,
don't
let's look him
trust
up.
it. Yeah, he looks like he's got like
Well,
male
we get to-
feminist face.
We got kind of the climax of the second act here, which is, I keep saying Adrian Brody, but
I wish.
what's his name? Fucking Gabriel Byrne. And Gabriel Byrne kind of like says you're mentally ill, tries to have to come to Jesus moment with her. She's like, no, please, it'll be fine. We just have to destroy this, this Necronomicon, which is just like photos of it, and then it'll go away. It'll go away. He, was like, I'm not going to throw it in. You're mentally ill. She throws it in. He immediately is engulfed in flames, dies immediately, and then she clicks, and then you see she's now full demon. And the end of the the end of the second act, there's no more questions over whether or not this is in anyone's head. It's all real. It's all a nightmare, and you get that feeling, and then the most haunting thing in the world is that right afterwards the kid wakes up, and you realize he's waking up to what is now a fully realized family nightmare.
It's awesome when he bursts into flames. Man, I freaked out. I remember the theater literally as soon as it happened, our whole row was like, "No way!" Yeah. It's also sad because at that moment too, you kind of feel like Gabriel Byrne might actually be able to help. He's the one who's going to help here. He's going to do the thing, and immediately Ari Aster's like,
That's
"No,
why he was killed.
No, he's not.
They didn't want him to
He's-
help. He was interfering.
The Samuel L. Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, man. Get rid of the hero.
Yeah, get rid of him."
All right, so third act, this kid wakes up. He's kind of like slowly walking around the house while Toni Collette is on all fours, crawling behind him.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yes.
He sees a dead he sees a dead burnt body, which is his father, Peter.
Steve.
Sorry, he's Peter. And then in the back of him, Annie is on the ceiling on all fours. You don't see that.
Yes.
And then
Good
you
wire work.
move to the left, and me and Sarah were debating this. You see a naked man. Is that Paimon, or is that just another like?
My
because
theory
later
is that
on-
it is another cult member.
It's
That's
just
what I
another
think,
cult
too.
member. It's not Paimon.
Yes.
Because there are several naked people that you see at times.
Yes. And then
Right.
also you realize they're all real.
They're all real, yeah. And then
They're all
just-
real. So he thinks he's seeing a fake thing, but it's a real thing. So you like that's yeah.
So then his mom chases him around. She chases him up to the attic, which again, you think he's escaping, but no, this is again all part of the plan. Mm-hmm. She's slamming her head against the wall. He gets up there.
Which has been copied now endlessly.
Right? He sees the decapitated mom. He then... Grandma. He then realizes just what this all is all about because he sees pictures of himself everywhere. He looks over... The famous scene, Toni Collette is using a piano wire to decapitate herself.
As she's like levitating.
He then sees more naked old people, which at some point I'm like, is this just Lemon Party? Is the end of this the big reveal?
If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, go let
it's just old people fucking. That's like the scariest thing anyone can come up with.
That's the scariest part of the movie.
You know, it's like
I'd be like, and then we see their old butts.
Yeah, they decapitate.
Whoa!
They thought decapitating a child was less scary than a naked old person. They waited on the naked old person rather than.
He found his dad's charred body, and he didn't jump out a window, but he saw one fat naked man, and he fucking swan dived so fast.
Oh God, no!
I thought that he had died when he jumped out of the window, but he doesn't die.
No, he does die.
No, he doesn't die.
But
he just knocks out. He just gets knocked out and possessed.
Wait a minute. I thought, but he's dead.
Well,
Peter's gone. It's his
Peter's
body
gone.
as a vessel. Charlie's spirit then goes into it. So
but I thought he broke his neck or something, but he doesn't.
he is dead.
Charlie.
No,
I think that, yes, Peter, the entity that was Peter is now gone. Charlie is now in the body. Mm-hmm. He jumps out the window, but he quote unquote lived because he's being kind of puppeted.
Well, it's not Charlie.
I
thought it was King. I thought it was.
It is Paimon. Paimon is lying about being Charlie's ghost.
Right.
It's Paimon who goes in and then he walks to the treehouse, which we've seen throughout the whole movie, as a place of refuge, and of course. This guy, Ari, knows how to take every place of refuge and turn it into a little nightmare factory. He goes there, and Dad's there. Everybody's praying. Mm-hmm. He realizes he's king. And that's the end of the movie, man. The prophecy has been fulfilled, and Paimon. Now, this is my question. We have a question on this horror movie. What happens after? Which is just a funny question because it ruins the whole movie when you ask that. For a horror movie. Whenever you ask it, what happens after, it ruins the whole horror movie. And my whole thing here is well, what does he do? Does he control the world, or does he just go back and run that craft store that Dowd was in? Is that what the devil does? What is he
think
doing?
they gotta
What
I
is
feel
his
like
next
he
move?
will be truly very sad at what his next moves are. It's understanding, I went through all of this bullshit just to continue to have this sort of middle manager demon existence. Mm-hmm. We actually kind of broached this on Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, where Satan in Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell is revealed at one point. This is a spoiler, but he's revealed that he is one of many middle managers in a world of hell. Right, so I think that Paimon is really, because he is that, right, in the world of, because there is an IP and an extended
one of the
universe
9
of
kings.
Demons.
Yeah,
right.
He probably has to wait for the other kings to really take over, right?
To show up.
Yeah.
And then
all from
how
the
many of them?
Of Solomon.
And then can you see how maybe as you go, how in what Cabin in the Woods, where you have the other teams all trying to keep the end of the world from happening. Yeah. So what if there's the other 8 kings have to make it through all of these various things, and maybe he finds out now you're in charge of all these old people. They all want you to fuck and suck and be a part of their orgies every week.
It's actually terrible. Yeah. It's a terrible
But
existence.
now one of the other 8 kings got set fire to by their mother, didn't get to make it to the end. Now you can't turn into the Voltron of the devil.
No,
itself.
he's just running a senior center. That's already what it is. He's just running an assisted living facility. Now, which is, if you've been to one of those places, it is hell.
It is hell, and now he could see how the truth. It's why he was so scared, because his whole life from then on is going to be all about old Dick. Mm-hmm. That's it from now on. That's the rest
Dick and
of his
tits.
sad life, his whole life.
Yeah.
Just fucking
old
unabashed
puss.
Bush.
Old puss for the rest of his unbelievable.
Old puss and stinky weenie,
I
buddy.
did read somewhere that by placing that symbol on the electrical pole, that it signified that it was the best way to tear the family apart. And thus, by tearing them apart, You know what I mean? That's how Payman was able to infiltrate this family, because what ends up happening? She turns against her son. She turns against her husband.
Yes, and they were actively going against the family in real life, too, in quote-unquote meat space. There were actual cult members that were helping facilitate this and do this. Mm-hmm. So that, where the end of the movie, where a lot of people criticize this movie because of the end of the movie, and to me, the end of the movie is what makes the end of the movie, is that it goes hyper gonzo, because it kind of makes up, Natalie and I, again, we watch all these movies, part of our thing as we've gotten older is that I kind of either need revenge, right? I kind of either need like some form of we're trying to make this right for like kind of artistic license. That something bad happened to the lead in the beginning. You kind of hoping they can get some kind of vengeance towards the end to feel satisfied. For me, I'm just as satisfied as long as everybody dies and everything explodes. Like it goes really, because then it's really what this movie is about, is the fact that even in the title, Hereditary, they couldn't escape it if they wanted to.
Yep.
Well, is there any horror movies that you like where it's a happy ending?
Yes, many of them.
Jaws. Right? Yeah.
Jaws. I like movies I like final girl movies. I like people who make it through. Yeah. I like, because it's fun for me, because then it's also, there's something about it where the revenge is fun. Like, as long as the revenge mechanism's really fun, like everybody gets back, because then you kind of, like, Cabin in the Woods is a great example of the neo-futuristic version of that, where in the end of the world is them getting their revenge, which is really fun to do. We've all been played with by this giant, weird end of the world's corporation. It's like, fuck you then. Fuck it. No, all right. Give it back to the old gods. It's done. And there's something about that I find highly satisfying. But otherwise, I don't like everything always to be bleak. It's why I had to stop watching Games of Thrones. That's why I stopped watching television for the most part, where it's like, stop manipulating me, please. I'm sick of feeling all these sad. I'm sick of feeling sad.
You are going to love Secession, let me tell you.
I just need something on the other side of it. I need a mixture of the two with my TV. If you're going to, because like horrifying I love, but if you're going to be sad, you need to give me something on the other side. That's why Last of Us is crushing it. It's because it's like sad, but then Pedro Pascal comes and kills everybody, which is like, that's what I like.
Yeah, it's Last of Us is really good, but yeah, I would put this top tier, man. Top tier. We don't really have a ranking system, because the thing is, we were watching so many good ones. It's like, how do you fucking rate The Shining or this or It's like they're all great.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
they're all awesome.
There's all 5 stars.
Hey, Henry.
Oh,
yes,
Spivetta's coming in here. Spivetta, that terrifying voice out of nowhere from the
back. Payman's here. Payman.
Having seen all 3 of Ari Aster's feature-length movies, how would you rank them? Because after I watched this, I was like, maybe Hereditary's at the top. After I saw Beau is Afraid, I was like, maybe this is the best one. So how would you rank them?
I love Hereditary.
It's better than Midsommar.
So Hereditary, it is better than Midsommar. I did like Midsommar. I did really like Midsommar. But yeah, it's Hereditary, Beau is Afraid, Midsommar for me right now. Because Beau is Afraid is it's great in scope. It's definitely like, maybe I would say, you know, from someone who's not a genius at filmmaking like Ari Aster, I would say like maybe cut the last 25 minutes off. But I feel like about any movie that's past 2 hours long. Yeah. So it's like it held. The first 2.5 hours of Beau is Afraid went by like that. I didn't even know. I was literally just laughing and purely entertained the entire time.
I got to check it out, Henry.
It's fucked up,
Henry. What can you? Obviously, you have Last Podcast Network, which is an umbrella of great shows.
We got all our shows. I would say check out our, we're trying to do more Twitch streams, but we're going to be announcing more of that. I also, we have Last Comic Book on the Left Volume 3. If you go to z2comics.com, you can go and order that. We've really been, it's crazy. We got crazy, the talent, the comic talent. It really shows. It's kind of sad being on the inside of all these comic companies now, like talking to DC and Marvel and all these places. And these
so you guys have a podcast about? It's a comic book about you 3?
No, we're writing. We just are writing comic books.
So it's kind of like Creep Show sort of thing. Like there's different.
Well, that for the last comic book on the left is an anthology series that has Marcus and I have written little books for it, but it's an anthology series kind of about the content that's within the world of Last Podcast on the left. But the comic artists that got to write on it are fucking great and write on and draw on are incredible.
Yeah.
But man, working for DC and working for these other companies, they just don't seem to give these comic book artists seem to be really at the low end of the pole here. And it's sad because they've created all of the work that you all love.
Well, it's,
as
yeah,
human
like
beings.
that's the whole. You know what's so crazy? It's like with Stan Lee, he's known for taking guys credit, but now he doesn't get the money either because he sold Marvel.
Isn't
so
he
it's
dead?
just these gigantic.
He's dead.
now.
He's dead. But
We're gonna dig him up in honor of this movie.
Desecrate.
Seriously, but no, it's that's one thing that's kind of sad. So they're still at the very bottom rung. Which is really sad because they're the ones actually creating the ideas that everyone else is purchasing and then flipping into premiere television. So, you know, if your local buy a coffee for your local comic book artist if you see one.
Because they will be serving that coffee to you.
They might be. They might be.
All right, Henry, dude, thanks so much for doing this.
Henry, you're the
I really
best.
appreciate
Dude,
it.
this
you.
is great.
Buddy. I love you, man. See you
Love you,
next
buddy.
time.
Bye,
So good to
Henry.
see you,
so
man.
good to see you.